Yo everyone, I know it's only September, but I've told myself, as we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year, I want to really start covering more things on this channel apart from UFC pay-per-views and fight nights. So from now on, I'll also be making Dana White's Contender Series videos every single week on top of all of my regular uploads and streaming. I would like to grow this channel as fast as possible, guys, and I'm working during all my downtime to achieve that goal and make things for my subscribers. I'm currently working on a Discord as well on top of it all, so stay tuned for that as well. Let's get into the breakdown of Dana White's Contender Series Season 9, Week 6. And the first fight of the card that we're going to be covering is Cody Chovancek versus Raphael Uchegbu. And something else I want to say, since this is the first time I'm making videos for the Contender Series, I'll try to give my recommendations as well for potential bets each fight, on top of who I'm picking, of course, just because I think that people have been asking for that. But man, this card is actually pretty star-studded with undefeated and dangerous prospects, but at the same time, even though there are a few dudes who are undefeated on this card, it also doesn't mean they are the greatest. So I will let you know when we are talking about some solid contenders here instead of maybe some can crushers. In this fight with Cody Chovancek versus Raphael Uchegbu, these guys are close in odds right now, but I feel quite good about Raphael Uchegbu to get it done here. I've watched quite a bit of Chovancek now. He's not really the best striker in my opinion, very much likes to rush in with some boxing combinations, but he doesn't really commit to much bigger shots in my opinion, so I don't really see him getting anywhere near a KO on the feet in my opinion in this fight. I would say his main assets would be his cardio and his wrestling, and I think those combined are probably his best way of winning this fight against Uchegbu, because I've seen Uchegbu before. I've watched quite a bit of fight tape now. He's been taken down in his fights, specifically in his only loss against Zebenzu Ruiz. I did watch him get taken down a lot in that fight, but he did actually manage to reverse position sometimes, and his sprawling and takedown defense wasn't absolutely terrible either, and I do really think that he's probably gotten better since then in his recent fights that I did watch. I just think Uchegbu is a pretty solid talent, guys. The dude has his own offensive grappling game as well, with pretty sick BJJ. He might be one of the guys who might mix in a takedown in this fight as well, not just Cody Chovancek, even though I would probably prefer him not to. I would prefer him to stay on the feet, but that's just because he's so quick and solid on the feet. I really do think he's got the advantage in the stand-up. He's also, on top of that all, got the height and reach advantage in this fight. I think he's pretty much a recipe for being a bad matchup for Cody Chovancek here. I've seen both guys go 5 rounds as well. Both guys have solid cardio and can keep a solid pace, but I just think the striking advantage is going to be too much for Chovancek here. I really do think Uchegbu is the better striker. I think he's going to stuff the takedowns. He's going to keep this on the feet, and he's going to win this fight by peppering Cody at range. Cody does have some pretty solid leg kicks though, but I just think he's too basic personally for Uchegbu. And something that I will also add here, in the one loss that Uchegbu did have against Ruiz, I think in a way the dude fights very similarly to Cody Chovancek, but he's just a way better version of Cody Chovancek in my opinion. He was faster, especially when closing the distance to land his boxing combinations. He was super strong. He very much was great at mixing in the takedowns off of his boxing. And I just think he was a lot quicker. Like I said, he was faster than Cody Chovancek. And I think that speed is going to play a big factor in this matchup. And Uchegbu is not going to get taken down just because he's going to be that much faster than Cody Chovancek. I think Cody is quite slow. He's very ploddy. And I see Uchegbu being too fast to be cornered by him and taken down. My official prediction for this fight is Raphael Uchegbu by decision or KO, but depending on the odds, my bet for this fight would probably be to put him in a parlay with someone else if he does end up a bigger favorite than what he is now for you guys. Potentially even putting a bet on him outright as well, maybe a unit on him, but I would probably stay to putting him in a parlay in my opinion. Moving on to Hwang versus Paddy McCorry. And this is a bit of a weird one to me. I do think I'm going to go with Paddy McCorry to win this fight, and I'm actually going to say he wins this fight by KO early as well. But I do want to state that I don't think both guys are super high level in terms of when we talk about the UFC level. I think that Paddy McCorry's striking is a lot more versatile though, and I could genuinely see him being a hard guy for dudes to deal with, even in the UFC with his striking. But the dude has a big grappling weakness that can be exploited big time, and that's where I see him having a bad time in the UFC. And for Hwang, I just see him getting flatlined by some decent strikers in the UFC. The dude is just way too defensively lax when it comes to pressuring his opponents. He rushes in trying to KO them a lot in his fights, which is something in his last fight he really didn't do a lot, which was strange to me. But almost every fight before that, that I watched, I literally just saw the dude rush in to try to finish the dude in the first second of the fight. And granted, it did work a good amount of the time, guys. He's a dude with big power. He's got a solid right hand as well down the pipe. Maybe some decent low kicks as well. But that's pretty much it. And that's why I'm saying this fight is a little bit on the lower level side, in my opinion, when I describe both guys. Hwang only has one loss, guys. But I did watch him get flatlined out cold in that loss because he tried to rush in for the KO. And the official time on that loss is 5 seconds, guys. He literally ran forward. He just put his chin out there. He took a right hand straight to the chin and he got knocked out cold, took some ground and pound strikes, and the fight was over. It was literally 5 seconds, guys, officially. I'm going to go with Paddy McCorry to get the KO in this fight. I think in the first round, potentially, since Paddy McCorry is pretty solid on the back foot, and I could see him catching Hwang with maybe a hook on the back foot. That's if Hwang fights like he normally does as well. My official bets for this fight might be to put him in a parlay with Uchegbu. I did say I wanted to put someone in a parlay with Uchegbu, so it might be Paddy McCorry here, maybe half a unit to a unit, so somewhere in between. That's something I could see myself doing. Maybe a prop on McCorry by KO in round 1 or 2 might be not bad either, in my opinion. I don't think this fight goes the distance. The height advantage and reach advantage are also for Paddy McCorry here. That's something I just wanted to add on real quick. I feel pretty confident in this pick, guys. Moving on to Thomas Gantt versus Adam Livingston. And this is a more interesting fight for me, guys, because I do think both fighters are quite decent and have some solid features that could make them great fighters. Even in the UFC, I think that Thomas Gantt, he sort of reminds me of a John Jones a little bit, more so because of the way he's built and the ferocity that he puts into finishing his opponents and that ground and pound. The dude is very high level as a wrestler. He does a lot of his takedowns after doing some clinch work against the cage. So most of his takedowns are just like, they're not singles or doubles. They're pretty much like drag downs from the cage, in my opinion, or he gets the body lock under the hips. He does have some good body lock throws as well, though. I think he's got some decent striking as well, in my opinion, but his best work is done against the cage, guys, with his elbows and knees, then just shooting and then proceeding to do more damage on the ground. With some ground and pound. He's got some absolutely vicious knockouts if you do want to watch this guy's fights. That description that I've just given you is pretty much Thomas Gantt's recipe for success in his fights, guys. And obviously, it's working to a degree. He's undefeated, but of course, some of his opponents he's versed weren't the greatest specimens I've ever seen, but that could be said for every single person that I'm talking about on this card. To talk a little bit about Adam Livingston as well now, he's a dude who's looking to strike, but not only that, he wants to get that KO for sure. He's a powerful dude. He's quite tall. He's quite rangy. He will be the taller guy in this matchup as well, which is something that Thomas Gantt might not be used to. He's also got some pretty solid versatility in his striking as well. I think his striking game is better. I do think he will be the better striker overall in this matchup, even with Gantt's decent boxing. Personally, for me, though, in this matchup, I am leaning towards Thomas Gantt in what should be a relatively close fight in odds as well. I just think that in a lot of the fights that I've watched of Adam Livingston, I saw many a time when he was able to get pushed against the fence, losing the striking in the clinch, and his opponents also getting to his hips a lot as well, trying to change their levels. They might not have been super successful to getting the takedown, but I believe if Thomas Gantt gets there, he will get that takedown. He's one of the best guys that Adam Livingston has versed right now in his career in terms of his skill set. I think that he should be able to take down Adam Livingston against the cage, and I do see him doing solid work against Adam in the clinch as well. Adam does have some pretty solid takedown defense. I don't want to say that it's bad. He is a very good sprawler out in the open, but I can just see him getting worked against the cage and dragged down to the ground in this fight. I do think that Adam is a solid underdog though, and if he does look better defensively in the takedown defense than what I do think come fight night, he could start to be a dangerous guy for Gantt here. But that is the way I see the fight going, guys. My official prediction will be Thomas Gantt by decision win. And for my bets on this fight, it's pretty close in odds right now. And I don't think Gantt moneyline is that bad in my opinion, so I might just chuck something on his moneyline there. Moving on to Iwo Baraniewski versus Mahamed Aly. And guys, for the love of all that is good in this world, stay away from this fight for betting on it. I'm going to obviously do the 5-fighter parlay with a small bet that I usually do on the UFC fight cards, but I will not put any other bet on this fight. I have no clue what's going to happen here. I've watched a bunch of fight tape on both guys, at least as much as I could, but I just couldn't find the only fight that I actually did want to see, which was Mahamed Aly versus Jared Gooden. Since I know of Jared Gooden, he fights in the UFC. Iwo Baraniewski likes to grapple because he has a background in judo, I believe it is. The dude's got some solid power. He is decent. And he's quick enough in the striking to mix it in and distract his opponents before he secures that takedown. And something else about Baraniewski is that he has miles and miles more MMA experience than Mahamed Aly. He has at least like 20 or 25 amateur bouts that I could watch and see on his record, plus a few pro MMA fights now. And he's going to look to strike and then set up the judo throw or takedown against Mahamed Aly. I believe that's going to be his plan here. For Mahamed Aly, though, he is an incredibly credentialed BJJ guy as far as what I've read about him and seen of him. I believe he was a super heavyweight world champion in BJJ. The dude has pretty solid striking as well. Winning his fights, for the few fights that he has had, he usually does it by setting up that high kick and a big right hand. I will say, though, that I don't necessarily think that he's going to be a better striker in this matchup, but I do think I like the way he throws strikes and the calmness he has on the feet better than Iwo Baraniewski. I also think Iwo has been finishing a lot of fights that I have watched of his early on, and it's pretty hard to tell if he will deal well in a fight that goes a little bit beyond the first round. But something interesting I came across was a loss on his amateur record, and I'll be honest, I watched the fight, guys. He was looking very solid early, just like he looks in every single one of his fights. He was securing the takedowns, he looked decent with the boxing, but as soon as it got to the second round, he looked like he was gassing out on top of his opponent. So he was in his opponent's guard, his opponent was on bottom position, and he ended up getting TKO'd on top position, and it just looked like he was gassed out and then just got TKO'd, not doing anything anymore by strikes, which was pretty crazy to me just to watch. I didn't know what was happening at first. That's what it seemed like to me anyway. Maybe I don't know what happened, but it really did seem like he just got tired and then he just proceeded to get TKO'd on top position. My official pick for this fight will be Mahamed Aly by KO or submission. I do think he gets the finish probably in round 2, if I had to guess. And I really just don't think he's going to compete with Mahamed Aly outside of that first round. So if he does win this fight, I do think he's going to win it in the first round. I won't be betting on this fight unless maybe it's an inside the distance bet, just because there isn't enough tape on Mahamed Aly or his grappling in MMA in general. I'm pretty sure I've never seen him grapple in the octagon besides his grappling in BJJ comp, which is usually in the gi, I believe. So I don't know how he looks like when he mixes it in, or if he gets tired grappling in MMA because he's got the striking there as well. Mahamed Aly is the pick, guys. Moving on to Hecher Sosa versus Mackson Lee. And unlike the other fights on this card, guys, I had actually seen a little of Hecher Sosa before doing my research for this prediction and breakdown video. I knew he was someone that he was closer to Ilia Topuria, and I saw when watching a few of his fights for this video that Topuria was in the crowd watching them as well. I just know this guy is for sure going to have a bit of backing by the UFC. There's going to be publicity for him. I do think the UFC ideally wants him to win this fight because there's just so many narratives they can potentially push since this guy's backed by Topuria. But before I say anything more, I'll tell you a little bit about both fighters if you guys haven't seen them fight before. Hecher Sosa is a striker who's usually looking to press the action on the front foot if you allow him to. He's also got some pretty nice footwork, guys, and overall is decently fast and has some solid hand speed as well. The best thing about his striking, in my opinion, is probably his ability to mix in those knees, and the timing of those knees as well is really solid. He is decently well-rounded too. I have seen him mix in a takedown or two in his fights. I've seen him reverse position in the clinch if he needs to when he's against the cage. He can also snatch up a submission if the opportunity presents itself, like a dash choke or a guillotine, which is actually a submission I saw him go for quite a bit in his fights, but he wasn't able to get them during those opportunities. He's currently on a 10-fight unbeaten streak and is also coming off a fast KO finish against a really young guy that actually wasn't too bad. I thought the guy was pretty good, but the dude did get caught by an elbow by Hecher Sosa against the cage when they were exchanging after a takedown attempt had actually landed in the fight. Mackson Lee is actually quite similar, except Picture the tallest and lankiest dude you've ever seen at the bantamweight division. He's literally 6'1" at bantamweight, which is just insane. The dude has pretty nasty power for his frame as well, though. He likes to use a lot of kicks in his game. He's got low kicks, spinning back kicks to the body. He's got teeps to the body. He's got pretty nasty BJJ on top of it all, which complements a taller and lankier guy quite a lot, since the longer you are, if you didn't know, the easier it usually is to snatch up submissions, guys, especially specific submissions like the dash choke, for example. Both dudes can be so similar in how they fight, but the biggest difference would probably be in how mobile they are. I think Sosa moves way more in and out of range, which I do like, whereas Mackson Lee sort of sits down on his punches a little bit more and can be a little bit more flat-footed when striking. I think the leg kicks will be a significant factor in this fight if both guys do want to use it. It is going to be available to both of them, and I do think it would be effective for both of them as well. Another thing I really do like about Mackson Lee is probably his finishing ability and his ferociousness to go in once they're hurt on the ground. I really do like a guy who's not afraid to get on top of someone when he has them in bottom position and really try to just put their head through the canvas with punches. This is sort of a tough pick for me, guys. I really feel like siding with Mackson Lee here in this one, just because I feel like the range advantage is going to cause him a lot of issues here. I saw in a couple of Sosa's fights when someone was closing the distance or when he was put on the back foot, he became a lot more hittable, in my opinion. And he wasn't just taking pitter-patter shots, he was taking some massive shots as well, especially in his fight with Thiago Enrique. I do think Mackson Lee is going to be good enough to push him back, or at the very least, make life absolutely terrible for Sosa at range with his kicks and counter shots. I do think Mackson Lee is also going to be the more dangerous guy here. I think he has more raw power in his hands. I could honestly see him clipping Sosa in this fight and then finding a TKO of submission here. But it really, like I said, is a close one for me, guys. There's a few close ones on this card. Like, if I had to say, I could see the speed of Hecher Sosa causing some issues for Lee in the striking. But, you know, I have to go with my gut here. I just think Lee has been more impressive to me in his performances and how he fights. Maybe Sosa's got more natural talent as a fighter, but I think he's got a few weaknesses defensively, and a taller and rangier, dangerous fighter might cause you too many problems here, especially when you're used to fighting shorter fighters. I watched pretty much every single fight I could on Sosa, and I never saw a taller opponent that he versed. I think Sosa takes more damage than what he might think in this matchup, and potentially I could see him getting clipped and finished in this fight. Mackson Lee is my pick here for this fight. I do think both guys are good enough to be in the UFC. Plenty of worse bantamweights on the roster, in my opinion, but I do think I could see both of them losing to some solid grapplers in the division, especially Hecher Sosa. I think his defensive grappling is something he needs to work on, since I think he just gets held up against the cage and taken down way too easily. He does have some decent sprawling, though that's in the middle of the octagon. Maybe I'm just being a bit harsh, though. My bet recommendation for this fight maybe is parlaying him with Raphael Uchegbu if you didn't parlay him before with the other fighter I mentioned. But maybe if you want to go a little bit less risky, taking the fight not to go the distance is probably going to be the best bet here. But I just know that I will be putting him in my 5-fighter parlay because I always do that for a main card. Anyways, guys, that's it for my prediction and breakdown for Dana White's Contender Series Season 9, Week 6. And since this was the first time of me covering Dana White's Contender Series, I will say I do think it'll be harder in general to predict fights down the line just because of the lack of fight tape. I'm realizing how hard it might just be. I'm sure that's an issue that so many creators have come up against, and I'm expecting it though. Let me know if you guys like me covering Dana White's Contender Series, or if you like me doing this style of putting my bets at the end of the predictions as well. I'm doing it on top of all of my regular uploads as well, so if you do like the videos, please give it a like, guys. Please show it to your friends if they also like the MMA as well. I'm trying to grow the channel. This video is getting put out a little bit later, but in general, I'm probably going to put this out a few days before the card takes place, and that'll be my more regular schedule. Appreciate you all. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.